British Columbian Canadians are totally being racially cleansed, and they're being targeted based on their racial profile. And the people who are being targeted the most are First Nations people and people of European ethnicity, mainly from the older generations of Canadians. Mainly the people who own a lot of the real estate or still have a lot of the real estate, they're the ones that are being targeted. And from what I've been hearing and from what I've been seeing is that the RCMP, the Royal Mounted Canadian Police, that's what they call them, are aiding in this. So the RCMP does not do its job. It does not stop crime. Sure, it's there, it helps. It does apply justice in many levels. It does help a lot of people. They do serve and protect in many ways. But the RCMP is basically now a criminal organization. It is basically a tool to target people and destroy their lives. The way that they're doing this is that they seem to be targeting the people that have the older Canadian cultures, especially in the British Columbian areas. The people who are basically, I could just say, white. And it's that blatant that they overlook the real crimes. They overlook the actual crimes that are destroying people. And they are basically targeting people based on petty crimes, jaywalking, stupid stuff. Someone defends themselves rightfully, and these people are getting charged for assault. Where the police is selecting who they're going to charge and who they're not going to charge. They don't allow people to press charges and drop charges anymore. The police now say that they're the ones that can charge you, and that even if the other party doesn't want to charge you or wants nothing to do with the case, that they're going to proceed with it. The way that Canadians are being racially cleansed, especially in the British Columbian area, is through drugs, is through the very things that they watch on TV, the kind of influences that they have, the way they're educated at school, the way the economy works around, like Canadians that are of more native origins. It's basically designed to make sure that the person who has the original Canadian culture does not benefit, that they are charged at any petty crime, at any petty mistake that they make, they are charged. The people who are against them or charge them or they have an issue with are greatly favored in those cases. The majority of the people that are being targeted by these drugs, these medias, and these laws are basically the original Canadians. Same thing in the United States and same thing in Europe. And this is also connected to the immigrations, because the immigrations are also being used to mix things up. And, you know, mixing things up in a way is good. Having multiculturalism is good. But the way that these immigrations are being used along with the way that regular people are seeing life in their regular everyday life, what's happening here is that people are literally being cleansed. They're being racially cleansed. And when people are speaking about this stuff and they're saying, hey, listen, why are we being targeted like this? How come this immigration is not normal? Like, why is these drugs and these influences and these laws only targeting specific people, favoring other people? And we keep talking about combating racism, combating prejudice, combating bullying. But what these leftist systems, or call it what you want to call it, are doing is that they're literally manipulating people's cultures, people's ethnicities, targeting the people who have the most strength in the country. So the strongest ethnicities, which are the European ethnicities, taking away people's property, people's livelihoods, breaking families up. What that's doing is that it's reducing the number of people who own houses of the older culture, people who relate more to the older history, and favor the older laws that protect freedom of speech, that protect fair wages, that protect just fairness. Where a human has a right not to be robbed or thefted or taxed to death or manipulated or abused or just have their rights completely infringed without any justice or legal reprisal to the person who's doing it. Those are the kind of things that are being taken away from Canadians, Americans, or people in the United States, and people in Europe. That's what's happening. So if you really want to get down to what we're seeing today, people are being racially cleansed, manipulated, and everything's being used against people. The science, people's beliefs, how people eat, the healthcare system, everything. And the way that science is used in manipulating people, in finding better ways of manipulating the mind, manipulating the genes, the body, addictions, just basically designing the way people function, new ways that people are going to function. And then what they do with the media and the education system is that they tell us that this is evolution, that this is good, that standing up against these things are racist, that people are racist for defending themselves, that people are prejudiced or sexist or against women because they don't allow things like the LGBT to basically tell children that they can be more than two genders, that if you are a boy, that you could be a girl, or if you're a boy or a girl, that you can be transgender, that you can be bisexual, that you can be a binary, non-binary, whatever it is. It confuses me looking at that. And then they're trying to say that you're being offensive. And what is this environment doing with LGBT? For one, it's breeding stupidity. It's basically ruining families. It's ruining the way that people grow up. It's just ruining everything. And when you begin to study it and look at it, and look at the effects that it's leaving on people, it's basically reducing people's lives. Some people are happy, yeah, they like this new stuff, but the majority of the people who are part of these things, they're highly manipulated. Their lives are really going nowhere. They're not really healthy. They're altering their body in so many different ways. They're being told that they're going to be happy like this. And yes, they experience a certain amount of happiness, but ultimately these people are not happy inside. And they're constantly told that the only way that they're going to be happy is if they fulfill this mindset or this fetish or this want. And then what the media is doing and these social circles are doing that relate around these kind of beliefs is that they're teaching people that there is no happiness until they achieve these things, until they get to this mindset or they get to this certain appearance or this certain way of being. And it's manipulating people and teaching young people that if anyone questions this, the way they believe, the way that they're being taught to find that happiness, that they're being preyed upon, that they're being attacked, that someone is being prejudiced or racist towards them. And a lot of this is also coming in with the immigration, because our media, our movies, everything is being designed to make people of other countries look like victims, look like they're being picked on, look like they're being discriminated, look like they're being not accepted into our countries. When in reality, it's our countries that accept the most multiculturalism on this world. It's our countries that in reality try to make things fair for everybody, and we have systems and laws that protect everybody. And everything that I said here, according to today's laws, they want to call it fake news. hate speech. They want to call it some sort of racism. They want to call it some sort of attack. The law enforcement will look at it as, wow, that person questioned law enforcement. This person must be a radical. There must be something wrong with this person. But the things that I said, especially relating to RCMP in Canada, not that I really have like association with Canada, just like I don't have really association with Sweden or the United States. I'm just a person who just speaks English. You know, I live in North America. I'm seeing everything that's happening. I'm hearing what everybody is saying. I'm studying things for myself. I can see things for myself. And a lot of these things that I've said relating the Canadian police is things that I have been looking at, researching, stories, news stories, hearing what people themselves have to say. You know, people who have been part of things, especially with YouTube. You look at a video and you look at something that the RCMP did that was not legit. And then you look at all the comment sections and you get people saying, hey, this is the experience that I have with the RCMP, this and that, like, this is not normal, this isn't justice. And then I begin to see the results of what these people are doing. They're overlooking the actual crime that's happening. It's almost like they're controlling the crime. And what they're doing is that they're working hard for this socialist, communistic system, whatever you want to call it, that is using this immigration, this homosexuality, all these movements as a means to socially engineer people. And they're basically enforcing it is what's happening. They're not serving and protecting. And throughout the years, I've always heard that the police systems, especially here in North America, were facing like a crisis. It was almost like a coup. You know, where you had like a certain mentality entering the police forces and as well the military. And you've always seen it in politics, but the integrity of the police forces, the actual purpose of them was being infiltrated. And the result was being that is basically becoming a police state. And that's what we're seeing now. And you're getting a lot of people of different ethnicities that are becoming cops. You know, they're not of Canadian or United States or of the European countries of where they're from. And you're getting a lot of people that in reality got a lot of radical beliefs. Rather they are Muslim or Russian or African or Indian or Chinese. Just people that are not originally from our systems. You know, you got a lot of people that have a lot of radical beliefs and a lot of hatred. And when they apply justice or take certain cases or when they're dealing with their own ethnicity or they could be also part of organized crime. And that's one thing that I was studying on the Canadian police, especially with the United States and Europe, all over the West. But mainly with Canada, now that we're on the subject, is that a lot of people that are on this thing called Hell's Angels or this glorified biker club, biker gang, which is responsible for, if not more crime than the Crips and Bloods. You know, these people got some sort of legal status in Canada and then in the United States, where they got these clubs and stuff, which is synonymous with this biker gang. Call it what you want to call it. But there's a lot of people that have been reporting and saying, hey, listen, a lot of the police systems are infiltrated by these gangs, by organized crime. You know what I'm saying? So here you got the police, you know, with gang prevention, gang squads, and all these things, you know, targeting gangs. While you got organized crime, people that are pushing drugs and allowing certain things to happen in the country with their police authority and their direct neighborhoods, they're allowing things to happen that are completely illegal. And it's because these people are either benefiting off it or, you know, working for someone who's benefiting off it or preventing, you know, a rival gang or whatever it is from benefiting off it. Like, what I'm basically describing to you guys is not just something that's in Canada. I'm describing basically like an occult system within our own societies, where you get a lot of people that are following the law, or law-abiding citizens. They're what you would call the sheep. And then you got the shepherds. You got people that are in occult societies and occult systems, whether you call it organized crime, whether you call it family systems that are occult, that are connected to corporations, or basically people that are like, people that got like an aristocratic, autocratic mentality, and they're basically ruling over us. They're ruling over us in every aspect. Different families, different systems. This is the reason for the taxation, the reason what's behind a lot of our media. You know what I'm saying? Why we're learning about certain things and why it's happening in more than just one country. It's happening all over the West. And then a lot of people are talking about globalism or creating a one world government. And there was a lot of presidents of the United States that talked about this stuff. There's a lot of politicians in Canadian history that talked about this stuff. It's a lot of it's from the English world. And then the European world has its own. Well, when I'm talking about the English world, away from England, away from Europe and North America. And then England has its motherland version of this globalism. And as well as a lot of the cult beliefs and systems that the United States has, a lot of people say that the United States is like the next Babylon. Biblically speaking, it's like the next Babylon. It's meant to, you know, be such a sin, such a blasphemy to the world, that it infects the world with its pornography and its wars, and it's basically what the United States does. And they're saying that the United States is Babylon, that's where Babylon's being born in the modern ages. I would say that England, if you look at its beliefs, it's a cult belief, as well, the kind of symbolisms that you see in their medals of honor and their stuff, like, you know, upside down stars, you know, like Babylonian symbolism, like the woman with the trident, basically like Ishtar, you know what I'm saying? Like Babylonian gods. So you can't really say that it's the United States that's Babylon. It could be, in reality, either the whole system or just England itself and its history and the roots of these kind of occult systems. But these kind of occult systems are all over Europe. And these topics are things that people are not used to really like looking into, especially a lot of people in the modern ages, and yeah, people of all ages. But mainly people in today's age are becoming more aware and are having more study into this. But just throughout the ages, everybody's known about occult systems, about organized crime, political systems, and the kind of families that rule them. Kings, queens, knights, people of corporations, town leaders, just people who have connections and they kind of almost rule things. They're in charge of things. They collect taxes. You know, or if there was no tax in that region, these people become like the new government or something, you know. But in the cult societies are behind most of our governments, because there's a lot of secrets, there's a lot of ambitions that are behind our governmental systems. And this is all over the West, all over the world, but I'm mainly talking about the West, the kind of stuff that we're seeing right now. And they got their own ambitions, and you know, so study those things. It's not conspiracy theory. A lot of it is, I guess, conspiracy theory. It's a conspiracy, and it's a theory on a conspiracy, but don't get it confused when you hear conspiracy theory, because the word conspiracy is actually something you should look into if you understand English vocabulary. Conspiracy is like, it's actually committing a crime. It's to conspire. It's to actually harm another person, or for a government, or basically a system to conspire to make a coup, or to change the law for not our benefit, or to conspire even to do things that could have a positive result. So conspiracy basically is something that has intent, or someone that is planning and working towards, harming someone or elements of society. And in this case, we're talking about individuals and families and systems that are behind our governmental systems. And the reason why there's a lot of things we don't understand in our world, why there's a lot of things that are happening, we just don't understand them, but they're still happening. And you're like, why does it feel so inevitable? Why does it feel like this is the future we got to go to, but this is not what I want. This is not what our family wants. We see that there's other ways to do things. There's better ways to do things. This is unnecessary. You know what I'm saying? Like living your life and trying to work and raise your family, and next thing you know, it's like your culture is being ethnically cleansed. Like your people are on the street doing drugs. You can't say anything. Like your voice, your sexuality is under attack. Everything. Yeah. That's when you know that definitely there's people that are conspiring against your society, against your community. It's not just paranoia or racism or being homophobe. And I'm just going to say that in this video, there's a lot of information that I could have got wrong, a lot of mistakes that I could have made, a lot in my grammar. There's nothing here. I don't got a script or anything like that. I'm just basically chilling in the room and talking to you about what's happening to Canadians, especially in the West Coast in British Columbia. And it really sucks that today you got something like YouTube, you got the ability to share, you got the ability to speak. And your voice can bring you trouble. Just your opinions now can bring you trouble. You're questioned to the point where you can be prosecuted because you're simply just sharing with people the fact of things. You're being called homophobe, racist, some sort of radical because you're stating the truth. If living like that is not living in a state of manipulation, a state of entrapment, like slavery, I'm just going to say that, these systems have entered a police state. And just to conclude the video to where I started, to what the police systems are, it's not just Canada or the West Coast. In Canada, you can go to the East Coast and see worse things. You can go in the center, you can go to the smallest towns, you can go to native reserves and study the history of what's happened to First Nations people in Canada and the United States. What these supposed Anglosphere systems where, like the British rule, the British righteousness, the English language and how good it is, and the Christian communities. There's a lot of dark stuff here in our North American territories. A lot of dark stuff. It would shock you. It's almost like regions are haunted because of it. Like, places are literally, like, haunted. Because of the kind of history we have. Like, the kind of things that have happened to people, like people have done to each other in these countries. To expand, to get their own thing, to get lands, deeds, political ambitions, a cult. And when I keep saying the cult, I'm talking about like systems that are ancient mixed in with modern, postmodern and pre-modern, and just ideologies from all backgrounds that are forming the cult that we see today. Families, aristocrats, autocratic families and systems that have fled or transformed or have hidden or have just maintained in the DL or just changed their course have always depended on these occult societies. And there's a reason why, gangs are targeted so bad. For one, because gangs, they cause crime. They sell drugs. But also, there could be people that just get together in community meetings and say, we're not going to take any more corruption. We're going to stand up to these things. We're going to rival these things that put us in this yoke that we don't need. And that's what these occult societies do. They almost manage our cities and our systems almost like it were to be a monopoly or risk board. They challenge each other, they compete with each other, but ultimately they have like a law. And that law protects their secrecy and, doesn't allow them to be breached, or doesn't allow, like conflicts and strifes within their own circles to ruin their own thing. And it's almost like their main law is to feed off us. And a lot of people call politicians and lawyers and people of certain governmental positions or mediative positions, or positions where people they manage important aspects of other people's lives. A lot of people call them parasites and bloodsuckers and all sorts of negative things. And you begin to see what these people actually do. Yeah, there's a lot of people that are charming, they are smooth with words, they do things, they help people, but when you in reality look at the fruits of their labor, are they really helping people? Or are they just feeding off people, feeding off society, excuses to change people's mindset by mass, and getting people into certain ways of living and being that people don't need. And that benefits this group of people that do it to other people. We know all about that. And I'm saying that these occult societies, you can't just say that it's conspiracy theory or some sort of lie, but these occult societies are basically satanic. That's what I was going to mean by everything mixed into this one thing. It's actually a satanic system where there is human sacrifice. Part of the human trafficking is not just to make money or for pleasure. It's for human sacrifice. You wonder why we have all these religions that almost tell the same story. We have all these gods, and then we have the Bible that talks about the main God, the main guy, the main dude who created all these angels and all these things that came down to earth and almost became all these people's gods. You know what I'm saying? And people worship these things. And people say, well, every religion's different. It has its backgrounds. Other religions are completely, as you can confirm, that they're man-made. Like, completely. Like, someone just sat there and made it up. But when you look at, like, the old ancient religions of different gods and their purposes and what they did, and giants and creatures and dragons and all that, you see it in every single culture, on every single continent. Rather, people wear leaves on their private parts to pants. Rather, people got to modern days iPods, and they can look up whatever and wear super high-tech, like, clothes. Literally, that's what it is. A lot of our jackets, compared to what we've seen in the past, are high-tech. Like this alone. Like the way it's been woven and made. You try making it by hand, good luck. You try getting the materials and putting them together. Compared to people that still literally wear leaves on their privates. So there's a lot that hasn't changed. And I'm saying that every single culture, in the past at least, when even before Columbus, when America was not discovered yet. You got to look at that very good. And why all these religions and cultures are telling the same thing. You got to wonder why in reality people worship things, why they sacrifice things, why would they do human sacrifices and sacrifice animals, what they seen in the past. Then you begin to read things like the Bible. You begin to read these prophecies and these and the origins of our creation or beginnings. And you begin to see, wow, this actually makes sense. And it looks like science almost confirms it, but almost doesn't want to say God. Science is like completely confirming it, like page by page of the Bible, especially relating what our world is and what it looks like, but they just leave God out. You know, and that's kind of interesting. So for whatever reason, just to add that in, for whatever reason, there's human sacrifice. Mainly the sacrificing of children. And what I'm basically describing to you is that we got this innocent little 1950s TV programming way of life. You know, gee, Pa, everything is good. You know, without really describing what our world is. So there's a lot of people that live in this fantasy that is been made for them. This is their Truman Show world where everybody's like, hello and goodbye. You know, good morning and good night. You know, I go to work, come home from work. And there's a lot of people that want to live like that. In fact, a lot of people benefit more off living like that than knowing about what really our world is. If you look at it psychologically and compare to the kind of dangers that are actually out there when you tap into too much information and really begin to see what our world's made out of and how little it takes to rule our world, and also how complex our world is and how fragile our world is, but at the same time how resilient our world is. It's complex, but when I say it doesn't take much to really run it, it's because our world is perfect. And the people who are in these societies, or whatever you want to call it, in science and everything, the people who are politicians and are telling us all these reasons that all us regular folk gotta listen to, you know, are the ones who are altering this world and changing it and using from it and almost understanding its limits and knowing that, you know, they're in control. Knowing that they're not taking too much. Knowing how much to take. Knowing how much people can take. And in a sense, that's perfect managing. That is ultimate understanding. And then they use this science and all this technology and all these advancements that we benefit off. It's very good understanding. And there's a lot of people that love this way of being. But it's being used to manipulate us. And when I say this satanic system and feeding off us, like parasites, like leeching off of, like taxing us to death, controlling us, making us go to war, you know what I'm saying, sexualizing our youth, our societies, everything, destroying them. You know, it's almost like a game. But there's a purpose to that. And that's why you guys should see why a lot of our modern systems are trying to go after religious belief. Communism did this, and they did this very effectively in all communist countries. And the incentive for communism, like the precursor to it, and the reasons for it is always that they're trying to liberate the poor from a capitalist, you know, autocratic, aristocratic system. But what communism does is that it might work for a little while, but it doesn't, because there's always death, there's always killing, there's always revolution, there's always war. And then there's people that get used to this killing, this exploitation. It's like they become psychopathic mass murderers, criminals, killers. And they don't stop. And then, yeah, you know, one day you do get a proper communist system, a Russian or modern China that pretends to be democratic and modern, which is not. You know, you get a lot of psychopaths, a lot of people that are used to this. And they feed off this energy. They feed off this killing. Why do you think people who kill do it again? It's because they feel some sort of sensation, some sort of energy if you study it. You see how these people feel when you begin to see the statistics or the study that's coming back from this, and you see that these people are feeling some sort of exhilaration, some sort of excitement from it or some sort of addiction. They can't stop. It's like there's a relief in doing it. You know, so if you believe in religion or you believe in faith, you believe in God, then you understand that sacrificing humans or whatever you want to call it to pagan gods or Satan himself, you know, these people believe. And if you're in a religious system, you almost can understand that these people are getting some sort of energy off. They're feeding off it, the destruction. You know, obviously the ones that are being destroyed are not doing good, but the ones that are doing the destruction, it's almost like they're like, it's like when you watch the movie Warcraft, Avatar, all this stuff, you know, the sucking of energy, you know, sucking out the soul. And then when you begin to study the Bible and how old, you know, those words are, and they're talking about our soul and how long we can live, which is forever, you know, and how long people have lived in the past, and how today we got so much advancement, so much technology, but our life expectancies are going down. The Bible is talking about people living for 1,000 years being perfect. Almost like the further back you go, the more perfect things are. The more healthy your food is, and it is. See it for yourself. You cannot call that conspiracy theory. You cannot call that fake news. You cannot call that some sort of religious bashing. When you saw your grandparents living to like 110 years old, like, or average maybe 80 years old to 90 years old, with a great possibility of being 100. To today, people barely making it past 60 properly. Like I know people from the older generations that eat basic food and don't mess with this iPhone stuff or sit on TV all day. Just people that go out, have their little coffee, cook their food or farm. Old people that are like 89 years old that have better memory than a lot of the kids we got today. Better functionality. The guy almost looks like he could run faster than a lot of the obese and unfunctional, dysfunctional kids that we have today. Kids that are just, they can't get off the technology. They're wearing glasses this thick by the time they're 10 years old when they're not supposed to have those issues. Kids even getting diabetes and cancer. It's like, and here's their great-grandparents still kicking it, looking like they could do disco all over again. The disco period all over again. And this is what we got for our youth today. You know, and so you just begin to look at it, especially Canadians in British Columbia. This is what I've been hearing a lot, and I've been seeing, and what I've been hearing from other people. And if you want to compare anything to Sweden or what they said Sweden's becoming, look at British Columbia, look at places like Vancouver. Richmond is unrecognizable. Richmond is basically China. It's China. You know, places like Surrey are basically India. And then if we say this is we're racist. Yeah, look at the. I'm not going to get too deep into it, but look at the people who are selling the drugs to these people. You know what I'm saying? Look at the people that are doing the drugs and are on the street and are being affected by the media the most. Look at the people who are affected by these laws the most. Look at it. Hate speech, racism. Who is that targeting the most? It's people of European ethnicities in Europe and here in North America. Look at that. What do you guys think about that? You know, like, you guys don't think that racial cleansing exists? You think that only white people do this, or white people have done it in the past? No. Our systems are being subverted. You know, there is something that is invading our systems. and it's using all of these social tactics and all this social engineering and eugenics and controlling the way people have families and breed, like the kind of stuff that they're putting in vaccinations, the amount of vaccinations, letting people in with that are not being vetted, coming in with illnesses into our countries from war-torn countries and then now suddenly we got like outbreaks of all these diseases we haven't really seen in this way in a long time, pandemics. Now our kids got to take all these vaccines that people are saying have all this poison in them. It's like, who are these people? And how can our societies get so bad that not enough good people can stand against it? You see, yet we're taught every day with the media and our education, everything, the movies, the music, that we got justice if we only believe in our systems. You know, if we only be free and dream and we can be whatever we want. Whatever we want? Wait a second. Whatever who wants? Because it definitely is not what we want. People want to have land. People want to have a good job, security, friends, their family. Why do people want to become transgender? Why? Why do people want to manipulate themselves like that? Why do people want to cut their life expectancy in half? Why do people want to get diabetes and put themselves at risk of addictions and cancers? Why? Why would people do that? They don't want to do that. Why would people want to do that? They don't want to do that, yet they do that. They do that because they're being manipulated. And you take a close look and you'll see why. Anyways, guys, this video wasn't anything special. You know, whatever Trudeau's doing in Canada, Justin Trudeau, that guy has to go. That guy's a fraud. He's the worst prime minister Canada's ever had. But whatever Trudeau's doing is almost the same as what the last guy was doing. And what the next guy is going to do. Whether it's going to be female or guy or who knows nowadays. Am I even allowed to specify on that without being called hateful? Anyways, guys, that's my video. Those are some ideas, some things that you guys should research and think on. Because this is it. People are losing their lives. Like, and no one's going to make a video like this just to blow smoke up people's asses. Or put themselves at risk of being called hateful or something stupid like that. Or the kind of stuff we're seeing today. They wouldn't do that just for no reason. Canada's fucked. The United States has a lot of good people, just like Canada. But it's fucked too. It's fucked. Europe is fucked in many ways. And our systems are definitely not going to help us or save us, or Donald Trump, or are you nuts? What's going to save our countries? It's us. Our cultures, our families, are sticking together and saying no more. Canada does have a culture. It does have multiculturalism in it. But the people who fought in those trenches in World War I and fought in World War II and the wars before that and upheld these systems ever since, they got their own culture. It's called Canadian culture. You know, that accepts immigration, and also part of that culture is Christian. Yet the Christianity that Canada has been so manipulated. It's terrible. And it's basically a lot of people from other countries, foreign countries, that come to Canada that uphold that good Christian belief, that good Christian background. And it's not just background in culture, it's the belief itself. You know, to see that we do have a mission here on this planet and that we should take it seriously. But anyways, there's a lot of people that are going to trigger because of this video so bad. YouTube's going to hella censor it, and what can you do? I'll tell you what you can do. town hall meetings, community meetings, preserving your culture, preserving your people, preserving your family, grow your own food. Most importantly, come on. Like 50 years ago, your grandfather could eat an orange and have enough vitamin C. Today, with all this genetically modified cancer, we have to eat like 7 to 8 oranges in order to get our proper vitamin C for the days. And then we can't even afford 2 oranges without paying so much. And supposedly this genetically modified food, this science, this evolution is helping us. Oh, we're too broke to raise kids. But yet, look what we're bringing in with the immigration. Look where all our taxes going. That's inappropriate, living like that. And yet they want to call us hateful. Who's hateful? Me and you for trying to live our lives, or these people doing everything to us? No. And by the way, I respect every culture, every skin color, every ethnicity. But when I'm saying that European ethnicities are being racially cleansed or manipulated or done like that in all over North America and Europe and what I described in British Columbia, I got the right to say that. You know, people got this whole Black Lives Matter and this, fuck, are you kidding me? Like, no. You can't say that racism only exists one place. And what's really weird is that our governments are letting this happen. Police systems are working with that. Either those occult societies are that bad. Doesn't matter if they're destroying their own people. Or really that's how bad Canada's been lost. Europe has been lost in North America. To where it's just been invaded, infiltrated, and entire landscapes just turned into someone else's country. And then we're called racist, and it's like, whoa, well, look at the size of our countries. Look at the size of European countries compared to the countries in the Middle East and Asia. Are you kidding? Like European countries and their diversities, besides Russia and its hugeness and what it did to its own people with communism and post-communism, you know, the entirety of actual Europe is pretty small. And yeah, it has influence in a lot of places. But in a way, it's actually pretty small. And these populations are being reduced every day. You know, so you can't just say that these people are this and that when everybody of all different ethnicities and types are everywhere now. And still now just to target the European ethnicities, that's a little bit hypocritical, isn't it? So if anyone nowadays now deserves human rights protection and preservation, it is European ethnicity, especially in British Columbia, Canada. Cultures and bloodlines and people that are being dismantled and destroyed and taxed to death and put on the street, starved and made to freeze in the Canadian cold. Or being sexualized and prostituted and used like meat and commodity. And they want to call us radicals for questioning these things. Anyways, guys, that's my video. And once again, if I said anything that maybe I could have got wrong, I apologize for that. But overall, this ain't a news station. This is just me talking. I hear all the opinions of the left and everything that YouTube pumps down our throats. To say that this truth is some sort of hate, I don't think so. Why do you think 95% of the people who watch these things agree with it, no matter what color they are or what their beliefs really are? Because they see it themselves too. But what? It's like, what? Because of this 5% that's manipulated by this, okay, this 4% that's manipulated by the rest of the 1%. Like the 95% has to pay? I don't think so. That's not democracy. But yet, that's how badly things are manipulated. That's social engineering 101 for you right there. Till next time, you guys take care. And take care well. Study. Don't let this happen anymore. Preserve yourselves by being aware and working together. What's so racist and harmful about that? How prejudiced and homophobic am I for saying that?